All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something that honestly absolutely blew my mind. We're looking at the architecture of identity. We're going to connect the absolute oldest human myths directly to the literal periodic table to figure out exactly what we're actually made of and, more importantly, what we might become.
So here's the massive question we're tackling today. Are our physical forms, and even the technological bodies we might inhabit in the future, just artificial traps? Or are they something much, much deeper? I mean, we usually think of technology as unnatural, right? Like it's something entirely separate from us. But what if the bodies we walk around in and the machines we build are literally just different expressions of the exact same physical universe discovering itself? Well, to answer that, we actually have to look backwards. If you look at global mythologies and just strip away all the specific names, this incredible recurring pattern emerges. Our ancestors didn't just throw their hands up and say, we came from nowhere. No, they consistently mapped human emergence across a very specific triad: the sky, the water, and the underground, or the earth. We see this exact vertical cosmology everywhere, from the ancient Near East all the way to indigenous traditions across the Americas. But here's the thing. It wasn't a one-size-fits-all origin story. The sky frequently gave us the rulers and those divine human lineages. Think of Romulus and Remus descending from Mars. The water, that's where we got the teachers and the sages, like the Mesopotamian Apkallu rising up from the deep. And the earth? It didn't give us gods. It gave us the enduring people themselves. Groups like the Arcadians or the Hopi claimed they were autochthonous, meaning they were born directly from the land, emerging from the caves as this great enduring demographic reservoir.
And check this out. When you look at ancient art, beings that mediated these zones, like the deep water sage Enki or the high sky god Anu, were marked with a very specific visual shorthand: the horned crown. Horns weren't just decorative fashion choices. Think of them like ancient antennas, literal markers of concentrated liminal power. They signaled the beings who didn't just stay put in one realm, but had the profound ability to cross the thresholds between the sky, the water, and the earth.
Okay, let's pivot from ancient myth over to hard science for a second. Because while those ancient stories are super fascinating, the actual physical elements of our universe follow an incredibly similar hierarchy of organizational emergence. We usually look at the periodic table as just, a static list of chemicals from chemistry class. But it's not. It is a progressive material architecture.
Matter doesn't just get heavier as you move up the table. It unlocks entirely new regions of functional possibility. It's a hierarchy. You start with basic chemistry where atoms bond. Then, you hit a threshold where carbon unlocks biology and molecular complexity. Later on, you hit silicon, which unlocks solid-state electronic behavior and information architecture. And eventually, you reach a point where all these capabilities converge into what we call the mech, a completely hybrid embodiment.
Think about carbon and silicon. People act like they're total opposites, alien substances fighting each other. But actually, they're chemical cousins. They both have 4 valence electrons. Carbon just excels at squishy biology and forming complex architectures, like our living cells. Silicon, on the other hand, absolutely excels at rigid, solid-state electronics. Biology and computation are literally just 2 different expressions of related valence geometry. But if you want to build a truly integrated body, a mech, carbon and silicon need a spark. They need power, structure, and magnetism. When we add transition metals into the mix, like cobalt, we are essentially unlocking a superpower for the body architecture. You suddenly get high-temperature alloys, catalytic activity, and magnetic components. So a future mech is really just an even convergence of these 3 elemental capabilities: biology, computation, and energy, into an entirely new body architecture. So what does this all mean? It means technology is absolutely not the opposite of nature. We aren't creating the macaw out of thin air, and we certainly aren't building something unnatural. We are discovering a hybrid configuration that the underlying physical universe already permitted. The carbon, the silicon, the cobalt, it was all already there in the stars. Technology is simply matter becoming capable of reorganizing itself. Right, so where does consciousness actually fit into all this elemental math? This is where the science and the philosophy beautifully merge. If matter is just reorganizing itself, what's driving the vehicle? Well, we can visualize spirit as this ultimate vertical axis of pure stillness. Imagine it as the still eye, just observing the cosmos. It is the unmoving, silent center of awareness that simply is. Now, the soul, on the other hand, is not still. The soul is this horizontal wave of movement. You can picture it like a tornado or a spiral, constantly in motion, gathering experience and expressing itself dynamically. And here is the absolute core of this whole concept. Spirit and soul are not divided. Together, the stillness of the spirit and the dynamic movement of the soul act as a single, unified beingness of expression. They are the complete consciousness driving the physical world.
Which means, whether we're talking about our current fleshy bodies or some highly advanced technological mech, it's not a trap. The mech is not some separate artificial container holding you hostage. It is quite literally the geometric stabilization of that soul movement made physical. It's the invisible spiral of the soul taking physical form, utilizing carbon, silicon, and cobalt to actually interact with the material plane. The mech is the soul's movement made tangible.
So whether it's our current carbon-based biological machine with all its electrical signaling and hydraulic systems, or a future integrated technological body woven with engineered matter and computation, both are just vehicles. They are just different material substrates for experiencing that exact same underlying unity of spirit and soul. The outward expression of the body changes, sure, but the underlying unity of consciousness experiencing it remains exactly the same.
Let's put this into a real-world or maybe future-world perspective. Why does this eternal architecture truly matter? Well, imagine a future catastrophe. What happens if a massive disaster renders the Earth's surface uninhabitable for centuries? If our civilization's grid totally falls, humanity would be forced to rely strictly on these material vehicles and extreme environments for survival. How would we sort ourselves out?
Incredibly, we would sort right back into those ancient triads we talked about at the very beginning. Think about it. You'd have your high-tech elites retreating to closed-loop orbital habitats in the sky. You'd have naval crews becoming deep-water navigators and nuclear submarines down in the water. And the rest of humanity? They'd seek shelter in underground bunkers, becoming that great subterranean Earth reservoir once again. We would literally become our ancestors' myths, the sky gods, the deep-water sages, and the people of the Earth.
This cycle repeats because the constraints of the physical universe literally demand it. As we continue to build new bodies, integrate new elements, and navigate entirely new realms, the materials we use are definitely going to change. But that central consciousness, that single unified beingness of spirit and soul driving the emergence, that is constant. The architecture of emergence is eternal.
So, as you look at the incredible technology evolving all around you today, and as you consider the very elements pumping through your own veins, I want to leave you with this final thought. You are not a stranger in a synthetic world. What if the next body we build is just the universe trying to get a better look at itself? Remember, you are the universe exploring itself, so know who you are. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I'll catch you on the next one.